Good morning. This is the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund Board meeting of February 7th, 2025, being after 9 a.m. We'll commence the meeting. Just like to note that in accordance with MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair will inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Okay, seeing none. We need a roll call vote to open the meeting. Um, Laura Schufeld,
Present.
Mark Milne,
Present.
Andy Clyburn has told us he will not be attending today, and we have a vacant seat. And I'm Mark Els, present. We have a quorum. Okay, move to public comment. Do we have anybody from the public wishing to comment? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to topics of discussion. The first topic of discussion is a continuation request from Standard Holdings for a reconsideration of denial of additional mortgages on residents at 850 Falmouth Road and requests that for transfer approval. Tim Tellman is here from Standard Holdings, and I also believe his attorney, Bernie Kilroy is here as well. We are, I believe we tabled discussion on this, and we're awaiting oh no, that was another item. This is just a brand new request then to reconsider a denial. And,
Correct.
so Laura, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to correct you that we had denied it without prejudice. And
Yes,
so,
and for some reason, I was remember what I was going to say was, we were going to ask for Bob Galvin to review and comment on what would occur or how we would proceed with a reconsideration. For some reason, that's where I thought we had left the discussion, given that they were coming back in. What I'd like to do is ask, um, well, first of all, does the board have any questions at this point about this request? Or do we want to hear from Tim Talman and his attorney first, and then I will ask our attorney to comment to us, and then we will take it under discussion and consideration? Is that reasonable? Thank you. Okay, that's how I will proceed. Tim or Bernie, please.
I will speak about this first part, and then Bernie will pick up thereafter. After our last meeting, there were a few documentation items that were requested. Most importantly, the certified cost of the project. So what I supplied from McMahon and Company, the accountant, was the certified cost of the entire project. And if you note on the second page where the numbers are detailed, first column, the bottom, total development cost of $17,965,000. That number was accepted by EOHLC as the certified completed work costs, which I submitted that document as well. And then the third attachment, I showed the sources and uses of funds to support what we are doing or requesting. And you'll see total sources of $16,528,000 spread amongst the bank note, which was the original amount, the trust, the net from our HDIP credit and equity against the certified cost of $17,965,000 left a shortfall of $1,437,000. And Bob Carlton and I met that shortfall, and that is the request for the mortgage to be put on behind the trust mortgage. It's a very straightforward subordinated mortgage, no teeth in it. It's one page, but just evidences the fact that we have put that money into the project. And last, one pager was our 12-month non-certified, just internal financials for the project. I think those were the items requested at the last meeting for review.
Did you say that your attorney was going to speak next, Tim, or?
On a different subject, not on this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So again, what we're looking for is just to secure our monies behind the trust at a later time to be paid, which Bob Carlton and I again submitted the funds for that shortfall to bring the project to fruition. And so our request is to be able to record the mortgage on the property.
Okay. So then at this time, I'll ask Attorney Galvin to provide the board with any comments on what's been submitted.
I think our concern always has been that we understood the financials of the project. And because we didn't understand this aspect of it, we acted with some pause when this request came up. I'm certainly not a financial expert in the development end of these things, but on the surface of what's been provided, it looks like a use of a portion of the equity of the property or return some money into the project. It doesn't look like it creates any type of significant additional risk for us. Our mortgage is still in a prior position. Obviously, we don't want a project to fail, but our interests are probably secured in this circumstance. So I leave it up to the trust board to decide whether you approve this. I think it was helpful information that Mr. Tillman provided. I certainly, on its surface, not being a financial expert, it makes me more comfortable understanding the situation. The purpose of our provisions of our agreement are so that we're advised as what's going to happen. And I think it's really up to you all, but I'm not concerned that our position becomes worse in light of the information that's provided.
Okay, thank you. Before the board, yes, Mr. Talman.
Just one last point, which I did mention last meeting, is this request has been approved by EOHLC as well as the bank.
Okay, thank you. All right, board members, discussion. Laura?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Yeah, I think this answers the questions. I could get into more questions around the difference between the expenditures and the qualified. The HLC, agreed to the 15,483 for the HDIP. And there's the solar panels and whether there's, whether you got revenue rebates from that, but that's kind of just, probably beyond what we're looking at. So I'm satisfied that we're in a sufficiently strong position before this mortgage goes on. But I think that it does, raise questions going forward for the guardrails that we're going to put on. We would like to put on our mortgages, but for now, I'm satisfied.
Okay. Mark Mill, any comment?
I agree. I think they've provided the information we requested at the last meeting. And I would just like to make a motion if that's appropriate at this time.
Please proceed.
So, yeah, I just like to make a motion that we approve the request for an additional mortgage of $1.4 million on the residence at 850 Falmouth Road.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call vote. Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Okay, thank you. Move
Thank you.
on to, yes, move on to topic for discussion number 2. This is a new application, second reading. Oh,
May I,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
I want, just, there was a second component to number one.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
so Standard Holdings is looking also for an approval to transfer because the trust does need to approve, that. And so I guess I will just let that, if you would wanted to address that at this time, that would
Oh,
be.
I'm sorry. Yes, sorry. I see the and request
Just
transfer.
briefly, prior to Bernie going through this, we have entered into a purchase and sale agreement on the property. And an important piece about the mortgage that you just approved was for, our goal is to take any proceeds, net proceeds from this sale and roll it into other properties in the Barnstable area. And so that was important, too, just to evidence that we had it there in case something happened to us personally, but also to allow those monies to be part of a 1031 exchange. And from that, I'll let Bernie proceed.
Oh, hold on, Laura, you have your hand up?
Yeah, just a point of order. Do we have a request to look at the transfer? Um, the email says we will receive a formal request for this item, but I don't think we got one, but I didn't receive one. A request to look at this. It is on the agenda. Just asking for some clarification whether this is appropriate to discuss.
If I could, that came by email, so I don't have a formal letter requesting, but I do have the email.
Okay.
All right, Attorney Galvin,
This
is there something more formal than an email that we would anticipate in this type of request?
I got from Jillian yesterday a commercial purchase and sale agreement. It's about 13 pages. I've looked at it quickly, but I don't really know that I've given it the attention that it probably deserves. Um, Looking at the agreement, I think it probably makes sense to have either Attorney Kilroy or Mr. Tellman describe what they're looking to do here because, um, we're in a situation that we were in last month with the Cape Built project where we've been asked to consider an assignment, and that became a little bit more complicated, not because of the trust board issues, but because it was the money on Cape Built was lent by or granted by the CPC. Um, I think it would be helpful for the board to get a summary of what they're asking to do and why, um, and then we could react to it. I'm not really sure what the 1031 exchange is or where they're looking to take our money and put it somewhere else if that's what the idea is. But I think having them explain it would be a better way to proceed.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. If you advise that we need something formal in writing, then please do so.
I mean, I think it's appropriate for them to ask the way they did. I think Cape Built did something the same way. It doesn't make any difference, but I think we're going to need adequate time to make sure that all our ducks are in order and everything is being assumed. In the Cape Built project, which we're going to discuss in a little bit, we have an assignment and assumption agreement. The regulatory agreement has a provision that requires consent. Um, the mortgages also require notice. So those documents we've actually created for the Cape Bill project, we could give to Mr. Tellman and Attorney Kilroy so that we don't duplicate the wheels. But I think having them explain the details and why it would be helpful.
Thank you. Laura Schufelt, please.
Yeah, just because I'm not sure Mr. Galvin is aware that in both the grant agreement and the mortgage, there's a provision that for a period of 10 years from the date of the closing, any transfer of, but more than 25% of either the membership or the sale has to be approved by this board. So that's the provisions that we are being asked to approve this. As well as to, assume the mortgage and regulatory agreements.
Okay, at this point, I'll allow Mr. Galvin's attorney, Mr. Gilroy, to speak on this, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. I assume that you have both a copy of the purchase and sale agreement and an email from the buyer's counsel indicating the name of the entity that will be taking title. Just as an overview, the agreement is still in some flux because they're still in the due diligence period, and there's also a provision for financing contingency, which ends, both of them end around the end of this month. But because of the notice requirement, the 30-day notice requirement, I thought it would be good to get it in for your review and let us know what we're missing. The agreement references as the buyers John Santoro and Anthony Santoro, or their nominee. The email from their counsel indicates that the name, they're going to be forming an LLC. They will be the principal members, and the LLC name is going to be 850 Falmouth Road Associates LLC. That's a corrected email, that earlier email. The notice requirements under the regulatory agreement indicate that we need to provide a signed agreement saying that the transferee will assume in full developer's obligations and so forth. In the agreement, there is reference to all the recorded documents, the regulatory agreement, et cetera, in paragraph 4 of the agreement. And in paragraph 29, there is a requirement that the buyer will assume the obligations of the developer as a successor developer. There's also a requirement that there be a certification from the town that development is in compliance with affordability requirements. So I'm not certain how we get that, where that comes from. I think that meets at least the filing requirements for the request for consent to sale. There is also a provision in the agreement for 1031 exchange. I understand that the two principals in this, Mr. Carlton and Mr. Tellman, may want to have the developer convey a fractional interest of the property to a LLC that they'll each form, so they can get 1031 exchange treatment for their proceeds. Both Mr. Carlton and Mr. Tellman own 35% of the LLC. The rest of the other two members own under 20%. So I guess what I was asking, what we did this way, is to get an idea what we're missing in terms of notification for to comply with the regulatory agreement and the trust board.
So certainly, Attorney Galvin.
So the agreement that I have references a rider and the tax increment exemption agreement.
Yeah.
Would probably need those attachments so that the purchase and sale agreement is completed.
Okay.
Again, I'll re-review the regulatory agreement to make sure that there's nothing else that's missing. I don't have any problem providing them the draft assignment and assumption agreement, but I think we need to understand a little bit more about the 1031 exchange or what's involved here. But I'm more than happy to provide that assignment assumption agreement that we just used for Cape Built. We'll have to adjust it a little bit because that's just a general town one, and this one will be a trust board one, but the form will probably be significant, equivalent or very close to it. I don't know what the trust board's history is with requests within the 10 years, so I'll defer to all of you as to how important that is. But again, we put that there so that we know who we're dealing with, and I think we're probably very comfortable with Mr. Tellman and how he's done this project. And, we don't know a lot about this new buyer, so maybe the new buyer could provide us a little bit of information about themselves and what their experience is. Um, the brand new LLC, obviously doesn't have any financial background, but if the buyers could provide us a little information about the capitalization of the project, I think that would also make us, happy and give us the ability to say yes or no on this. Those are my initial thoughts.
Yes, Laura, please.
Yeah, we obviously, at least according to what I received, the prospective buyers don't have any experience in Massachusetts or with affordable housing. So we definitely need to have some, as we always require, some entity that is overseeing the leasing and compliance of the affordable units. And then they say that in one place, they say they're going to sign on to the, or assume the monitoring service agreement. In another place, it's not listed. So that would be a question as to who's going to be monitoring compliance. But obviously the monitor can't be the same person as the person that's doing it. So we need to be assured that they understand the requirements under the regulatory agreement and for the reasons we provided the funds. The to go to why there's the provisions on the transfer was kind of just for this reason, to make sure that whoever is either taking a greater interest in the LLC or transferring the property, that they do have the experience and that we can be satisfied with that, and that they have the financial capacity or the capital stack to be able to purchase this and have enough room to have the affordables uh, be part of the operating. And they understand the tenant rights under the affordable units, that we have provisions that they can only be evicted for cause. And so those are, the things that concern me about any transfer and need to be satisfied before I would vote to approve this.
May I just add that Stephen DeLuca, the attorney who sent the email, represented the current lender to Standard Holdings. So he's intimately familiar with all the regulations that are on record that about which you're talking. He also indicated that they have operated or are operating a similar operation in Rhode Island. But the reason we put in there that they've done nothing in Massachusetts is because of the Section 9 in the regulatory agreement that speaks to that. So I think they'll probably be well schooled on all the requirements about which you talked. So, but again, would be helpful. Also, they're going to be getting some significant financing. So I think that that should be maybe helpful in making a decision whether they have sufficient backing to carry on the project. So those are my comments.
Yes, Mr. Talman?
My understanding is that they're going to be putting down 8 million in equity in cash on the project, financing the difference. They're, as I understand, very well heeled. They own an oil company in Providence, and my guess is they do well, and they're diversifying their profits. And as Bernie said, their attorney, their corporate attorney, was the same attorney who closed these documents for the Bank 5 and Mass Development when we closed. He's very thorough, and also noted in the P&S, they are on board with assuming stepping in our shoes 100%. They will retain our management company, who we have been through one review, I believe it was last August, on the affordable process in conjunction with the monitoring agent. And that went smoothly. So they're going to keep basically everything in place that we have in place now.
Yes, Laura.
Um, through you to Jillian, did we receive that report from the monitoring agent?
I have not received that. I do know that the Barnstable Housing Authority, as the monitoring agent, did, I want to say, at 1 year after initial occupancy, were on site and reviewing those leases at that time, but I do not have the report.
Could you make sure that we get the report and also the report, if we don't have it, because I know I haven't seen it, the report from initial lease up and then the 1 year report, and make sure that the housing authority understands that we're supposed to be receiving those annually?
Yes, I know we do have the initial lease up from the,
Okay.
I forget that, community
Lottery agent, yeah.
strategies. We have that one.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, given the discussion we've had and the additional deliverable items, we'll take this under advisement. Okay, and Jillian, when appropriate, will put it back on an agenda. Mr. Talman, yes, Jillian, please.
May I ask, if we were to do a continuance, is there any specific time? I mean, our next meeting, we would not be meeting until March. I don't know if that, hopefully that's okay.
Is it possible to move forward that, let me just see, mute, unmute. No, I was unmuted. I'm sorry. That if Attorney Kilroy works with Attorney Galvin to provide these documents in the interim over the next 30 days to just facilitate that process a bit quicker?
I guess it depends on how we progress and then the availability of the board. So I would want to hear from Attorney Galvin and Jillian that they've received all that we've discussed or clarified anything that we've asked to clarify. And then I could certainly reach back out to the board. We try to have these standing meetings pre-scheduled just to try to adhere to that, Tim. And certainly not wanting to prolong this for you, but on the other hand, I want to be comfortable that we've received the information, we understand the information, and when we come back together next time, we're able to, if possible, make a decision relevant to what you're requesting. So, Laura?
I would add that we would need to have some, not to say, Tim, that you're wrong, but I would like to have something in writing from the perspective or from the buyers that they are, keeping that your management company, and I don't know that they have the experience to look at the eligibility of tenants coming in, because that wasn't what I thought was happening. But we need to have proof that they have certification that they can do that. And that the BHA is in agreement with the assumption of the monitoring agreement. So, I'd like to see a representative of the buyers at the next meeting.
Fair enough.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay, thank you all. Thank you for your explanation. Moving on to topic number 2. This is a new application, second reading, Copacabana Realty Investment, Inc., 11 Potter Avenue, Hyannis, is requesting $450,000 to subsidize the redevelopment of a .18 acre site to produce 4 residential rental units, 3 of which would be perpetually deed restricted as affordable to households of 80% AMI. And here with us is Carlos Barboza, representing Copacabana Realty Investments. Carlos, good
Good
to see
morning.
you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, yeah, Laura was right on the last meeting. Regard to the calculation, we were wrong. Okay. And I think we sent the new piece of paper correcting everything else. The distribution of the credit from the solar system produce energy. The rental for the two studios went down from 1712 to 1512, and the one bedroom from 1834 to 1610. And with a credit of per square foot, it's going to generate about $200 for a month for the studios and 224 for one bedroom. So to clarify that to you, Laura, that the question that you had before. So
Okay. Jillian, was the application complete? And do you have any other comment? And then I'll move to Attorney Galvin before I have the board discuss this. Was the application complete, and is there anything deficient that we need to be aware of?
My impression is that the application is complete. The documents, of course, are our legal side. You know, the draft documents for a regulatory agreement, drafts of the potential leases. I have shared those with Carlos, but I don't know that he's had a full opportunity to review what the requirements will be on the side of the trust and compliance. So I just want to make sure that we have that. And I gather we're ready to look at the financial component at this point with the request. Does that make
Okay.
sense? I'm sorry.
Yeah, maybe so the application is complete. Now the regulatory agreement, you're saying,
That would, of course, be drafted after the request, but I wanted to make sure that our applicant understood the requirements of the affordable units. And in this case, there would be 3 that would be at 80%. So that would be a
that's
voluntary.
correct.
yeah.
Yeah. I do understand the requirement, and we're just ready to move on too. So
Okay. Attorney Galvin, any comment on this application at this time?
None at this particular point. I'll certainly, help in whatever way I can on the grant agreement, the note, the mortgage, review of the declaration of covenants and restrictions, and the, processing of the regulatory agreement.
Okay. Discussion by the board. Laura?
Yeah, I think we touched on it last time through you to Mr. Barboza. Could you explain who is going to be doing the eligibility compliance for the affordable units?
well, I believe it's gonna my attorney, Bernie Kilroy, is gonna help me out with that. So
Okay, so you will be contracting for that?
yes, yeah,
Okay, and you understand that you need to have a lottery for these units?
I do understand that. I do understand that.
All right. And we have an operating budget. I'm not sure. Some of it was not legible for me. So I was trying to find if we had a development budget as well.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Okay, I give it to Julian the whole budget and show her the cost of the whole construction.
So Julian, do you have that document?
I do. In the application, there were the full budget. There was also the bid for the construction. So I do think there's good detailed information there. I guess I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at that. That's we have that. And the solar was an additional component, and we have
Right.
that has come through as well.
So the development budget's in the original application, not in the things we got this time.
That's correct, Laura.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like time to review that, Laura, before we further this discussion?
I can probably find it, so if we can just put this on hold while we move on, and I'll find it. I don't have a recollection of looking at it, so I don't think we need to table it for the next meeting, but let me take a look.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
okay.
Carlos, are you amenable to me pausing this for a moment?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
No
Yes.
problem with that.
Okay, thank you. Julian.
I believe it's pages 33 through 34, perhaps, of the application. I don't know if that helps, but
Laura, do you have
and
your hands on the application? Or should Jillian forward you it directly?
I'll have it in just a minute, so I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mark Mill, before I pause this topic 2, do you have any questions at this time?
No, I don't. No, I see that. Yeah, it's page 33 is the development budget and 34. Yep.
Okay. What would you like me to move on to item number 2 and then come? Yes, that's what I'll do. So what I'll do is I'll hold you to the end, Carlos. Thank you for your patience.
Sure, no problem.
And,
I'm gonna be in the car if you don't mind, so I have to go to the hospital with my wife, so okay?
yes, sir.
I'll be in the car on a meeting, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to topic number 3, resolution to request from Cape Belt LLC transfer of interest in 255 Main Street, Hyannis to Riverview School by executing new assignment and assumption agreement and restating promissory note with the town of Barnstable. Attorney Galvin,
Sure.
you're
Thank you.
up. Yes,
All
sir.
right. So as you stated, Cape Belt was proposing to assign their property at 255 Main Street to the Riverview School. This property has 2 community housing units. This was done at a time before the trust board was making the grants, and it was done directly from the Community Preservation Committee. When the project was done, it was subject to a regulatory agreement that wasn't the DHCD form, now HLC form. There was a declaration of restriction and covenants, and there was a mortgage granted. Unfortunately, we could never find the note that we also typically require. So after the last meeting, I spent a lot of time with Karen Nober, Kate Connolly, Tom LaRosa, making sure that we had the appropriate forms in place to allow this assignment. Because the trust board wasn't involved, we've kept the town itself as the principal person or the community preservation committee involved. But we began and we fixed the regulatory agreement. The regulatory agreement has now been approved by HLC because without the HLC's approval, the restriction wasn't a perpetual restriction. Tom Brennan and the lawyer that was involved, Paul Tardif, worked with Kate Conley, myself, Tom LaRose, and we got that all approved. We created a brand new note to fulfill the requirement referenced in the mortgage. We had to tweak it this week because we had a disagreement on the town side about whether it should be dated originally or it should be dated currently, and we've come to a resolution on that. Uh, we have prepared, I think we finalized an assignment, an assumption agreement you may have heard me refer to earlier that is going to be presented to you, Mr. Ells, for signature. That was done a couple of weeks ago. We're all satisfied with the current language. I think we're in really good shape there, and I think this will not be something that the trust board necessarily has to concern itself with. Um, but it's taken a few weeks to sort this all out because there were some missing documents. We needed HLC approval for the regulatory agreement revisions, and I think we're all in really good shape. And Kate or Tom or Karen will be presenting that finalized assignment and assumption agreement for your approval.
As town manager, not as chair of this board.
That's correct.
So what is actually pending before us at this point, meaning the trust?
Nothing.
Okay. Laura, please.
If I can ask a question,
Of
Sure.
course.
even though these are 100% AMI units, they're still subject to fair housing and all the provisions that would still be required under CPA, including a lottery. My concern is that with Riverview owning it, that they will reserve it for employees or not have an open and fair process in renting the units is my concern. And so I'm wondering if there's a monitoring agreement that went along with this, and if they understand the restrictions that they have. And I don't know whether you know the answer to that. That's not the legal documents, but it certainly is a concern. In order to have these meet the requirements of CPA, they do have to meet, and just state and federal law under fair housing. So if you know the answer, I'd love to hear it.
I don't know the answer on the monitoring agreement, but I can certainly ask that question because it hasn't been finalized yet. I know that the assignment and assumption agreement requires them to assume all of the obligations that Cape Built originally had. And I believe there is some reference to fair housing and to the monitoring requirements. So all of that is required.
Thank you. I know I asked the question last time and was told that they're 100% units, so they don't need that, but they do.
Yeah, well, we found some deficiencies and, and because this was early on in the way money was granted, all the I's were not dotted and all the T's were not crossed, but I think we're in really good shape now.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. I'll continue with the 4 and then I'll see if Mr. Barboza is available again.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm here.
Oh, you
So
are? Okay. Well, then we'll be careful driving and talking.
I definitely will.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we will go back to topic number 2, the new application, second reading for Copacabana Realty Investment. Laura, did you have time? Did you find the document and did you have time to look at it?
I did find the document and it refreshed my memory. I had notes on it from last time, so I'm good.
You're good. Okay. So is there further discussion relevant to this application? Okay, seeing none, Laura,
I would make a motion
please.
I need to look at how much. Sorry,
450,000.
I would make a motion that the trust approve the funding of this request for $450,000, assuming all the legal documents, the regulatory agreement, monitoring agreement, mortgage and note are endorsed moving forward.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Yes, Laura, please.
Sorry, I want to add to my motion. Also that the trust would receive a cost certification at or an updated development budget at prior to construction closing and cost certification at completion of the project.
Okay, Mark, do you
Okay.
accept that modification?
Yes, I accept that.
Okay, thank you. So I have a first and a second. Any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I'll move to a roll call vote. Laura Schufeld,
Yes?
Mark Milne,
Yes.
Mark Elge, yes. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for everything. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. End of the year planning and reporting. I think I'm turning it over right now to Jillian. So first A is end of year report to the CPC.
Okay, so in the packet was the draft that I have done. There were some areas that were highlighted basically because I think people had comments that I incorporated. I'm just looking to see if there was anything that I didn't address. I think under the administrative and professional support and any filing fees, I will need that information on the last statement or balance sheet that I had. It was from inception, so I didn't have the end of year numbers for that. I have my own information for what the town and the trust have paid for my support, $62,550. And then I think we needed to add the information about the contract that we have with Attorney Galvin as special counsel. And I think those are the only expenses we've had other than the project expenses. And I think if there were other things that people wanted added, please feel free to chime in and let me know if there's something that you want in that report.
Okay. Board, is there any discussion of the draft report? Did you have adequate time to review and comment? Yep, okay. Go
I
ahead.
did.
Go, hold on, Laura, and then Mark. Go ahead, Laura.
I think I had suggested that that maybe we take out the section on seasonal communities since we're not a seasonal community as of now, and not sure. Not sure when we would if we would get that designation.
Yeah,
So
that's to be determined. They're still developing how communities that weren't initially listed might be listed. So,
yes, I'm on that working group. So
oh, good, good.
I think it's jumping the gun. That's all.
Okay. Jillian, is that something that you can go ahead?
Certainly that out. I'm just questioning also, I had listed ADUs and I don't know, did you want, so what I had is a section about strategy changes. And so what I had included was just what were under the Affordable Homes Act, but I could take all of those out if you wanted. Also the regional activity, I would probably want to keep that included because that is the discussion about the Regional Housing Services Office and the county's efforts.
Laura?
Well, ADUs are the state law is in effect. So no matter what our ordinance says, the state law regulations are in effect as of February 1st. So that's kind of a done deal. The what was the other one you said?
I had an update
the
about
regional.
the ARPA funds and the Regional Housing Service Office pilot
Right.
study.
And again, to my knowledge, we haven't opted in yet.
No.
And don't know whether so that's kind of a, we might say that it's, I don't know that you say that it's
Like,
pending,
have
but
you Have you spoken with Jim Kupfer on that, Jillian?
Yes, we've had lots of discussions, but again, what I believe is needed at this point would be the county needs to come back and sort of give a presentation, I think, to the town about what the Regional Housing Service Office, what the intermunicipal agreement, what the obligations would be of each town. I can only report back that from the pilot, the data that has been collected. It's a regional database that's already been collected, and it is valuable. I think the services have a great potential, but it will be a local decision whether to participate in that or not.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Well, my opinion, I'm on the advisory board, as you know, I represent Barnstable. That needs to happen soon if it's going to be in the budget for this year. And it's obviously an administrative decision and then a council approving the budget for it. So, it's February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah, certainly I don't want to convey anything that we actually don't know the answers to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I got notice recently from the county that they are holding some sort of discussion in the very near future, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Jim is participating in it. Okay. Corey, do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, they had an update yesterday that I
Oh,
attended,
okay, yeah, okay.
just kind of going over the pilot program and the future moving forward. And we're speaking, me and Jim are going to be speaking with Alexis next week about the role that the regional housing services would play and what we would expect them to provide to Barnstable for us to move forward. So yeah, we have to make that determination by the end of February, whether or not we want to be a part of the shared regional housing services program moving forward.
Okay, and so Laura, would it be of value for you to be looped in for a discussion with Jim and Corey?
Yes.
Okay, and then Jillian, I don't want anything speculative from my standpoint in the letter, so
Very good.
we would want to remove anything that was, okay?
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, so good. Corey, you and Jim will reach out to Laura, right? Before, so you can have that discussion before we go with a final discussion.
Most definitely, I'll reach out to Jim right after this meeting.
That's great. Thank you, sir. Okay, Mark Milne, you had your hand up.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to thank Jillian for what I thought was a very thorough report, and I do owe you some expenditure information for calendar year 2024. As you mentioned, it basically includes just your expenditures as well as Attorney Galvin, and that we had incurred no other administrative expenditures other than that.
Thank you.
I'll get you those numbers.
All right. So, any further discussion on 4A? So at this point, what can you modify and then circulate to the board just so we can have one last look?
Absolutely. I will do that as soon as I
Thank you so
get off
much.
this call. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. B, Mark Milne. I think you're muted still, Mark.
Sorry about that. Yeah, as we
Um,
discussed at the last meeting, we have this income stream now from the WS Landing project at the former Kmart Plaza coming in. We just got our first payment of $75,000, and so those will repeat themselves for the next 10 years, and then upon execution of the final land ground lease in 2027, we'll get a lump sum payment of another $750,000. And so my idea was to use those proceeds to begin developing a fund to accumulate resources for the potential buyback for these Commonwealth Builder programs units that Housing Assistance Corporation will be putting in on, I believe it's the corner of Stephen and North Street. And so, I wanted to put it out there for the board's consideration that, we start dedicating that revenue stream to this program and I'll throw a number out there and see how everyone feels about it. But I was thinking about $500,000 in that fund.
Okay. Any discussion on that proposal, Laura?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate and a good number. Obviously we don't want to lose the units, and the only way we can do that is by making up the difference between the 50% equity that we would share and the buyer's 50% equity. So it's not, it won't be the full cost of the unit because we should never actually get ownership of the unit. We'll find a new buyer and pass it along. Just, as we move forward in putting the legal documents together, and I know it's 15 years down the road, but we should be thinking about it, that 15,000, that equity that we put in, should be writing down the costs, not going to the borrower. We've had bad results in giving it to the buyer and then having the buyer turn around and resell and cashing out. So we have to be sure how we do it, but the fund I think is necessary to move forward with Commonwealth Builders program, and using that money doesn't get us into trouble with CPA rules. We probably could make it work under CPA, but no one's going to complain about it. And if we wanted to just ask, I think it's better to have that stream that we know is coming in to use rather than to keep going back to CPA to ask for that up to $500,000. So I agree with what you said, Mark, bottom line.
Okay. We don't need a vote for this, I don't believe. This is just to direct you, or Laura, what's your thought on that?
I think we do if we're going to dedicate it for Commonwealth Builders for this program. I think we
Okay.
do need to have a vote because Mark's going to have to account for it separately.
Understood.
I mean, restricted account, basically.
Okay, Jillian?
A question, because the Commonwealth Builder project that had previously come before us, because that is so sort of far off in the distant future, that you would be accessing these funds, I'm just questioning whether this set aside of funds would be specifically for Commonwealth Builder, or whether it might be in the event that there's a change or anything happens in between, that might be available for other buy down units. And because that's how some trusts do that, they do a set aside that's more for any buy down units that might arrive.
Okay, Laura?
I think that we have more that this would be more dedicated. I would prefer that it be dedicated to the Commonwealth Builders Program. The others come in once every 5 years, and we can deal with those on a case-by-case basis if we have to. We're at the point now where there's not that many with old deed riders before 2005. So I would hope that it would be dedicated, and if one comes up, that we would deal with it on a one-by-one, case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, I have a question.
Yes.
So once you have, put $500,000 into this fund, there will still be revenue coming in from this source. And which category does that go into when it comes in?
Um, it's restricted for the affordable housing component of the trust, but it doesn't have the constraints that CPA funds will have
Correct.
because of the funding source. So yeah, it'll go into the affordable housing component of the trust.
Great, thank
And
you.
my thoughts around this with, with the $75,000 coming in, I thought, we'd set aside 50,000 a year for 10 years to get to that $500,000 balance and let the other 25,000 go directly into our affordable housing program so that we can use that for other projects.
And in year 2027, you said there was a larger amount coming?
Yes, there's a lump sum of 750,000 coming in 2027. But I think if we create this $500,000 balance over a 10-year period, we'll be okay. But welcome to take any other ideas around that thought that the board may have. But I think creating it over a 10-year period would meet our goal.
Right, so we're looking at 50 a year for 10 years to a
Yes,
dedicated fund.
correct.
Okay, so any further discussion? Attorney Galvin, any comment on any of this? No. Okay, thank you.
Well said.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion?
I would move that the trust sets aside $50,000 per year for 10 years from the WLC Landing revenue.
Okay, and do
I
we
can,
need to state what it's dedicated to?
Yeah. And to be used to offset any shortfall in repurchasing Commonwealth Builder units.
Okay, do we have a second?
I can,
Any discussion or, Jillian or Attorney Galvin, any comment on the motion? No. Okay, seeing none. Move to a vote. Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Mill,
yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to topic number 5, matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. I don't believe I have any. Do any board members have any? No. Okay. Approval of the minutes from November 14th, 2024. Have you all had a chance to take a look at those? Do you have any comments on that set of minutes?
I'd move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, roll call vote. Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Mill,
yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Approval of the minutes from December 6th, 2024. Have you all had a chance to look at those? Okay. Do you have any comments on those? None.
I was not here for that meeting, so we could wait till the next meeting to approve those.
That's fine. I'll move on then to approval of the minutes from January 10th, 2025. Did you have a chance to review those? Okay. Comments? None. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? None. Laura Schufelt,
Yes.
Mark Mill,
Yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Topics for future meetings and agendas. Yes.
A while back, Laura and I had talked about criteria for evaluating or guiding monitoring agents and the contracts that private entities might entertain for that. We kind of came up with some initial thoughts, but we haven't really got it to a final document, like how you would weight those criteria or how. So I think if it's all right with you, probably in a future meeting, I'll bring back the recommended ideas, those thoughts that we came up with, and just get them back on an agenda. So.
Laura, any comment?
No, I think it's probably something we should finalize a draft of and bring forward.
Great. Okay. So under administrative, Jillian, when you're ready to do that, please proceed with that. Okay.
Okay, and sorry, Laura, I will be contacting you a little bit on progressing that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Any additional topics? Okay, seeing none. Our next scheduled meeting is Friday, March 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And number 9 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Laura Schufelt.
Yes.
Mark Mellon.
Yes.
Mark Ells, yes. Thank you all.